Blood was dripping from the knife as Cheryl Dawson stood over my daughter's wheelchair. "HOA rules," she snapped, while Emily held her side, blood soaking through where the blade had caught her ribs. Cheryl had no idea I was the sheriff for the whole county. She didn't realize the sirens heading toward our house were attached to patrol cars driven by men who answered to me. Justice was coming, and fast. "Step away from those roses," I had said. "Before I go on, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. And if this kind of story hooks you, hit like and subscribe." The scream that tore through our backyard was sharp, followed by my daughter's terrified cry. I wasn't there. I was 15 minutes away at the station when the call came through. Later, I'd watched the whole thing unfold on our security cameras. Cheryl Dawson, the same woman who ran our HOA with an iron fist, had stormed into our backyard with a pair of garden shears and a kitchen knife. She went straight for the rose bushes, ones my late wife had planted as a memorial. Emily, my daughter, just 16 and in a wheelchair since a car wreck 3 years ago, had rolled outside, trying to stop her. There was yelling. You could see the fury twist across Cheryl's face. Then she raised the knife, and blood all over Emily's shirt as she crumpled into her chair. I wasn't there when she needed me most. My phone rang at exactly 5:30 p.m. It was Mrs. Lopez, Emily's caretaker. Her voice was full of panic. "Sheriff Miller," she cried, "that HOA woman, she stabbed Emily. There's blood everywhere. The ambulance is coming, but, oh my God, she cut her with a knife." The world tilted under me. In 15 years wearing a badge, I'd seen crime scenes that didn't haunt me as much as the images running through my head in that moment. I made the drive home in 7 minutes. I don't remember making the call for backup, but 3 patrol cars were behind me anyway. My deputies knew my daughter was my whole world. When I pulled up, chaos was already there waiting. Neighbors were clustered on their lawns, stunned. The flashing red of ambulance lights turned everything into a horror movie. 2 paramedics were rolling Emily out on a stretcher, an oxygen mask over her face. Her shirt was soaked with blood. Her wheelchair was still by the rose bushes, speckled with crimson. "Emily!" I shouted, running up, suddenly feeling like my badge and my gun were just useless props. Her eyes opened just a bit. "Dad," she whispered through the mask, "I'm okay." Mrs. Lopez stood nearby, shaking like a leaf. "I tried to stop her, Sheriff. I tried." "Who?" I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady as I held Emily's hand. Mrs. Lopez pointed across the street. Cheryl Dawson was standing there, arms crossed, looking like she was annoyed more than anything. "She came into your yard with garden tools," Mrs. Lopez said. "Emily tried to stop her, and the woman lost it." One of the paramedics came over. "She's got 3 deep cuts on her right side. Knife sliced through 2 ribs, numbers 7 and 8. Didn't go all the way through, but she'll need surgery. We're checking for internal damage." I leaned down and kissed Emily on the forehead as they loaded her into the ambulance. "I'll be right behind you, sweetheart." Deputy Harris placed a hand on my shoulder. "Go with her, sir. We've got things covered here." But I couldn't move. 20 years in law enforcement taught me how to stay calm. But seeing my daughter like that triggered something deep inside. I crossed the street. My uniform suddenly felt too tight, like it didn't belong to me anymore. Cheryl didn't flinch. She actually stood taller, her expensive sweater still clean, not a drop on her. She stood there with a clipboard in her perfectly manicured hands. "Sheriff Miller," she said in this calm, icy tone. "While this is unfortunate, maybe now you'll finally deal with the violations on your property." "Violations?" My voice dropped to a low, tight whisper. She glanced down at her clipboard again. "The rose bushes along your fence line are over the 30-inch height limit. I left 3 written notices. When you didn't take care of it, I followed HOA procedure to enforce compliance." "You trespassed," I said, my voice steady but furious. "You stepped onto my property without permission, and you injured my daughter." Cheryl just sneered at me. "Your daughter interfered with official HOA business. I was removing unauthorized landscaping when she approached me. The knife was for trimming twine. I acted in self-defense." By that point, My deputies had closed in behind me. Mrs. Lopez had already shown them the footage from our security camera. Deputy Jenkins leaned over and murmured, "We've seen the video, sir. She's lying. She went after Emily with a knife when she tried to stop her from cutting those roses. The ones Mrs. Miller planted before she passed. And that's when something inside me snapped. Not my composure, I kept that, but the line between being the sheriff and being Emily's dad? That line disappeared. Cheryl Dawson, I said firmly, you're under arrest for trespassing, assault with a deadly weapon, and aggravated battery of a disabled minor." She blinked, her smug look crumbling into disbelief. "You can't arrest me. I was enforcing HOA policy." "HOA policy doesn't override state law," I said as Jenkins moved in and cuffed her. "And it sure as hell doesn't give you the right to stab a child." "I didn't know she was disabled." Cheryl screamed as they walked her to the patrol car. "And those roses violate Section 5.3 of the code." Finally, I got in my vehicle and followed the ambulance. At the hospital, Emily ended up needing 37 stitches. The surgeon had to repair muscle damage and work on 2 ribs where the knife had sliced through, the 7th and 8th. The doctor told me she was lucky. Just a half-inch deeper, and that blade would have hit her lung. They had to put small titanium plates on both ribs to help them heal right. That night, while Emily slept in her hospital bed, I made calls. Not as a dad looking for revenge, but as the sheriff doing his job. By morning, I had a full profile on Cheryl Dawson. Turned out, this wasn't her first time. She'd been sued 3 different times for abusing HOA power in other neighborhoods. All the cases were settled out of court. Her real estate license had been suspended too, for ethics violations. But the most damning part? She'd been pocketing HOA fines, collecting extra fees from residents for 2 years, and not 1 cent of it had made it into the neighborhood treasury. I went to the district attorney first thing that morning. By noon, Cheryl was hit with even more charges: fraud, embezzlement, and harassment with a pattern of abuse. Because of the violent nature of the attack on Emily, the judge denied her bail. While Emily recovered, neighbors I barely knew stopped by with food and flowers. Some shared their own stories, how Cheryl had bullied them, scared them into silence. A few families had even moved away rather than go up against her. Some of our elderly neighbors told me they'd paid bogus fines just to avoid the stress. 2 weeks later, I wheeled Emily into the courthouse for Cheryl's preliminary hearing. Her lawyer looked confident at first, thinking they might get the charges dropped, or at least reduced. But then the prosecution played the security footage. There was, clear as day, Emily rolling into the backyard in her wheelchair. Cheryl going at the rose bushes with her shears, not even pausing. Emily begging her to stop, telling her those flowers were planted by her late mom. She didn't just slash at Emily once. She went at her 3 times, swinging that knife while Emily tried to shield herself with her arms. The courtroom went completely still. Her lawyer quickly asked for a short recess. When we came back in, Cheryl Dawson took a plea deal, 8 years for aggravated assault, plus full restitution to every homeowner she'd defrauded in the neighborhood. As we walked out of the courthouse, Emily looked up at me from her chair. "Dad, can we replant Mom's roses?" I smiled. "Of course we can, sweetheart. And this time, they're growing taller than 30 inches. She grinned. "You remember what Mom used to say about her roses?" I nodded, my throat tightening. Sarah had planted those roses the day we brought Emily home from the hospital. "Beauty," I said softly, "should never be regulated." Life slowly began to feel normal again. The neighborhood voted in a new HOA board, one that cared more about building community than punishing people. Emily's scars started to heal. The physical ones, anyway. The emotional ones would take more time, but she was tough. About 6 months after everything happened, I found her in the backyard early one morning before school. She was crouched beside the new rose bushes, carefully trimming and watering them. "They're doing great," she said when she saw me standing there. "Mom would be proud." I knelt beside her wheelchair. "What got you out here this early?" Emily adjusted her glasses and looked thoughtful. "I had a dream about Mom last night," she said. "She told me, sometimes the most beautiful things grow after really bad days." She reached out and touched the tallest rose bush, one that now towered well over the old height limit. "We shouldn't let fear stop us from growing," she said. I looked at my daughter, this incredibly strong, wise young woman, and suddenly realized I'd been carrying a weight I hadn't even noticed. For months, I'd been angry. Angry at Cheryl. At the system that let someone like her hold power. At myself, for not being home that day. "Your mom was a smart woman," I said. "The smartest," Emily agreed. She hesitated for a second. "I've been thinking. I want to start a support group at school, for kids with disabilities. A lot of them are scared to speak up when things go wrong." I helped adjust her wheelchair. "I think that's a great idea." "I wasn't sure before," she admitted. "I thought people might only see my chair. Or the scars. But now I get it. Standing up matters, even when it's scary." As I pushed her back toward the house, she pointed toward our mailbox. There was a letter sticking out. Official looking. It was from the state prosecutor's office. Cheryl Dawson's appeal had been denied. She'd serve her full sentence. I didn't feel triumphant. Not angry either. Just relief. A chapter had closed. And finally, new ones could begin. That evening, while I was helping Emily with her homework, the phone rang. It was the mayor. "Miller," he said without skipping a beat, "City Council's looking to overhaul HOA laws after what happened. They want someone who understands both the law and the people. You interested?" I looked over at Emily. She was watching me with curious eyes. "I might be," I said. "But I'd need to bring my chief advisor to the meetings." Her eyebrows went up. After I hung up, I told her about the call. "They want you to fix the HOAs?" she asked. "They want us to help make sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else." Emily thought for a moment. "We should start with a rule about not going onto someone's property. And maybe one about protecting memorial gardens." I smiled. "I think those are excellent ideas, Chief Advisor Taylor." That night, after I tucked her into bed, she held onto my hand. "I'm not angry anymore. About what happened." "You're not?" "That's surprised." She shook her head. "Anger takes up too much space. I'd rather use that energy to make things better." I kissed her forehead, amazed at how wise she'd become. "When did you get smarter than your old man?" I teased. She grinned. "I've always been smarter. I just let you be the sheriff so you'd feel important." We both laughed, and for the first time in months, it felt real. The next day, a certified letter came addressed to Emily. Inside was a handwritten note. "From Cheryl Dawson. I'm writing to apologize for what I did," it began. "There's no excuse. I think about the look on your face that day, and I feel ashamed. I don't expect forgiveness. But I do want you to know, I understand now. I was wrong." Emily read it twice. Then she carefully folded it and slid it back into the envelope. "What do you think?" I asked. She was quiet for a second. "I think people can change," she said slowly. "But only if they're held accountable first." I watched as she wheeled herself back out to the garden, to those roses that were now stretching freely toward the sky. And it hit me, she'd found something I was still trying to figure out. That fine balance between justice and mercy. The roses had bloomed again, even after everything. They'd pushed through pain, through damage. Just like Emily. And as I stood there watching them both grow, stronger, brighter, impossible to hold back, I felt something else. Healing.